Here are 10 things you need to know before using finasteride, minoxidil, and derma rolling for your hair loss. Let's go. Is this regimen permanent? Unfortunately, there is no cure for hair loss as of yet. That means that with this hair loss regimen, using finasteride, minoxidil, and derma rolling, you will need to keep at it in order to see results, which means that from the moment you stop taking any medication, all the progress that you've made will be lost, which means you're back to square one. So it's important that you remain patient and know that your results will come with time. Give it at least 6 months before you do your evaluation whether or not the hair loss regimen is working for you. Do I have to combine finasteride with minoxidil? I'm not telling you to do anything at all, but if you want to battle your hair loss, then I suggest you use both finasteride and minoxidil in terms of medication. Because finasteride and minoxidil, they're not like a 1 + 1 = 2, but they actually have a synergy effect, which means that when you combine the two, they can actually have an exponentially positive impact on your hair loss. While finasteride works on a hormonal level, which blocks the enzyme 5-alpha reductase to convert testosterone from dihydrotestosterone, also known as DHT, what minoxidil does is it helps to bring nutrients to your hair follicles. So they sort of tackle hair loss in 2 different ways, which is also why combining the 2 is so crucial for maximizing your hair loss results. If you feel like you want to experiment taking just finasteride or taking just minoxidil, you can do that. But time is working against you. I know for me personally, I used finasteride for 1 year between 2019 and 2020. All it did was stopping my hair loss from further progressing. It didn't give me any regrowth. So I was very disappointed when I only used finasteride. Whereas when I combined it with minoxidil and put the 2 together, I gained so much hair back. So I would strongly recommend, based on my personal experience, that you combine the 2 from the start. Are there any side effects to the medication? Whether you take medication for your liver, your heart, and ibuprofen for your headache, there will be potential side effects that you cannot escape ever. But the likelihood of you getting side effects are very, very low. And same goes for using finasteride and minoxidil. But if you're watching this and you've researched the potential side effects, I bet you're most curious about finasteride. With finasteride, the side effects are most commonly sex-related, which means loss of libido, maybe not getting your thing up, watery semen, premature ejaculation, etc., etc. But from the studies that I've read, it's important to note that these side effects are reversible, which means that if you notice any side effects on finasteride, you just discontinue taking finasteride and you will reverse those side effects. And for me personally, I've gone on and off finasteride 3 times, and all times I've had watery semen, but once I discontinue taking the medication, it goes back to normal. But as I mentioned before, there is not one size fits all, so everyone will react differently to different medication. So always do your research beforehand, but also take note if you're experiencing any side effects, because if that's the case, I advise you to discontinue taking the medication if it's something that's messing with you daily. Watery semen to me is not a big problem, but if you're experiencing something like you can't get it up or you're losing all your sex drive, I would strongly recommend getting off the medication because it can actually mess with you quite badly. But I would strongly recommend that if you decide to use finasteride and minoxidil, that you do not go in with the mindset that you will get adverse reaction to the medication, because in that case it's most likely to happen. And this I've seen in multiple studies where they give one group finasteride, another group placebo, and a small percentage of people in both groups suffer from these adverse side effects, which means that the fear of getting side effects may actually cause side effects. Again, I'm not a doctor, I just really know how powerful our minds are, and if we believe something to be true, it will come true. Call me superstitious, but if you're really afraid to take finasteride because of the side effects, please change your mindset before you begin taking finasteride, for your own sake. I also want to express that I personally don't believe that hormonally altering drugs are good for any of us. Not for women and not for men. And then again, I'm 27 years old. For me, hair loss has been such a difficult thing to deal with that for me personally, having hair outweighs the risk of the long-term effects of the medication. Will I regret it in the future? I honestly don't know. I don't want to tell you to take the medication. I don't want to tell you not to take the medication. If you're looking to regrow hair, it's a perfect medication when combined with minoxidil. That's all I have to say. Will I experience shedding? When you begin taking hair medication, at least for the first 2 to 3 months, I do think it's healthy to assume and expect that you will get hair shedding, because what the medication essentially does is it renews your hair cycle. So it has to get rid of all the hair that is affected by male pattern baldness to renew the hair cycle, which is also why I've kept it so short so that the shedding is not as bad. Some people find this so hard to deal with, whereas for me, I know that the more hair that I lose due to shedding, the more effective the medication is towards my hair loss. So if you begin to shed a lot, that's actually a very good thing because it means that the medication is working for you. So don't let it scare you off, but just know that you have to break a couple of eggs to make an omelette. Last time when I was using finasteride, minoxidil and derma rolling, even into, the 14-month mark, I was still losing a lot of hair daily. But my hair was still a lot thicker, I had a lot more denser hair, and I know that a normal person loses from 50 to 200 hairs each day. So losing hair in your sink is not necessarily a bad thing. It's a normal thing that happens to everyone. But during the initial 1 to 3 months of taking medication for your hair loss, you will experience a slight increase in hair shedding. But as I said, this is not a bad thing. Just write it out and know that there are brighter days ahead. What can you expect from using finasteride, minoxidil, and derma rolling? Everyone reacts differently to different medications, which means I can't sit here and promise you that you will get certain results from using medication. However, I do know that the success rate of people wanting to regrow their hair is very high. But obviously, it may not work for everyone. But how I would think about this instead is try finasteride, minoxidil, and derma rolling. And if it doesn't work, there are always other ways. But if you haven't tried it fully, given it 6, 9, 12 months, you actually don't know if it's working for you. So rather than starting something, expecting it to go from 0 to 100 in 3 months, because someone that you know was a hyper responder to the medication, give yourself some patience. Know that things that are important and things that are hard take time to accomplish. So regrowing your hair is gonna need a lot of patience and time. And if it doesn't work, there are other ways. There are hair transplants, you can do PRP. But in my opinion, and from the research that I've done, finasteride, minoxidil, and derma rolling in combination is the best hair loss treatment at the moment. So expect it at least not to get worse, expect it to get better, but also expect it to take a lot of time. So if using this hair loss regimen, is there any other things I can do to boost my hair regrowth? Following this hair loss regimen is already a lot of commitment. You have to take minoxidil twice a day, you have to take finasteride once a day, and you have to spend about 15 to 30 minutes once a week to do your derma rolling. So obviously this is already a big commitment. So the idea of wanting to do more to boost your hair loss regrowth should not be something that you strive for. However, there are many things that you can do individually to grow your character that I think will result in less stress and better hair, more confidence, and building yourself up. Because if we're concerned with hair loss, we're also concerned about how we look, how others perceive us, our own confidence. Why not maximize that as well? Exercising or working out is something I would truly strive for doing 3 times a week, if not every day of the week. This will help boost your confidence, alleviate any stress, reduce depressive symptoms, which as we know can also help with hair loss since stress is related to hair loss. Alongside this, I would recommend eating more nutrition-dense foods to get all the necessary vitamins that you need for your hair loss, but also for yourself. Another thing that I would focus on is how you dress, because how you dress also determines how you feel. Have you ever heard of the saying, look good, feel good? It's actually true. A first impression is crucial, and if we dress well, we've worked out, we feel good in ourselves, despite our hair looking a bit shitty, we will actually portray a more positive and more attractive aura around us. Focus on how you dress, upgrade your wardrobe. Check Pinterest, check Instagram, check YouTube. There are so many influencers that dress really well. Look at your wardrobe, think, okay, is there something I can change? You don't have to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on it. But just go on like ASOS, Zara, and just buy like the nice basics. There's so many influencers that have good tips on how you can dress better at an affordable price. And the last thing you can do is changing your mindset. Changing your mindset in that you cannot control everything in life. There are only certain things that you can actually take control over. And this relates to hair loss as well. Because if you're following this regimen with finasteride, minoxidil, and derma rolling, you're already doing enough. That's not to say that you should not always strive to do your very best. But if you know deep down inside that what you're doing is the best that you can, be content with that. And then let the universe work its wonderful ways. If you can master this, it'll become so much easier to quiet down that little voice in your head that always criticizes you, that tells you you can always do more, you can always do better. Oh, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? For me, I had this voice on all the time, and it's telling me that I'm not doing enough. It's telling me I shouldn't take any more breaks. It's telling me I shouldn't enjoy a movie with my girlfriend. It's telling me to not slow down. And this is something that I'm personally struggling with at the moment, and it's something that I'm trying to work towards, because I know that I'm probably doing more than most people, and I still feel like I'm not doing enough. And I measure my own value in the things I produce and in like my accolades, when I know when I'm just being me, I'm good enough. And it is okay to take a day, 2 days break when you have to recharge. Why does minoxidil cause a flaky scalp? Because minoxidil has alcohol in it, it does make your scalp flaky with time. This can be avoided with various techniques. For me personally, what I do is that I wash my hair more frequently. For me, I try to avoid using shampoos and conditioners, so I only actually use warm water and cold water. I know this is a bit of taboo, so I'm not going to go too much into it, but I try to use shampoo maybe once every 3 to 6 months, if not less. The minoxidil will get sort of oily and greasy in your scalp, but also in your hair strands. So if you wash it with warm water, it dissolves all that greasiness from your scalp, but you can just wash it out in like a minute, and then you can just finish off with cold water and it'll get better. If you want to use a shampoo, I would suggest using a more costly shampoo, which is better for you, which has like biotin and other good components, because you don't want to buy like a anti-dandruff shampoo, because what that does, sure, it gets rid of all the flakiness and the dandruff from your scalp, but what it will do, it will kill off all the natural oils in your scalp, which means that in a couple of days your scalp will be even more flaky. So invest in a good shampoo if you want to go down the shampoo route. Don't let that be discouraging, just wash your hair more often. How do you get finasteride, minoxidil and derma rollers? You can get your hands on finasteride through a prescription from your doctor. So you need to book in a doctor's appointment. They will take blood samples to make sure you're suffering from male pattern baldness and that you don't have any hormonal imbalances prior to taking the medication. For me, it took about a week to get finasteride. You can get topical minoxidil over the counter. And if you're a guy, which I know from my analytics that 97% of you guys are males, you need to get the 5% minoxidil. You don't want to get the 2% minoxidil because that's for women. So you want to get the 5% topical minoxidil. And when it comes to derma rollers or microneedles, you can get those from the internet. It cost me about $15 and I got the 1mm derma roller. It took about 3 days to get and it's worked wonders. I've ordered about 3 or 4 of them now. So save your money and just get like a cheap one. What derma roller is the most effective for hair loss and how often should it be used? You will want to use at least a 1.0mm derma roller for your hair loss. You can go up to about 2mm, but I would recommend to stay between the 1 and 1.5mm spectrum, because these depths will be deep enough to penetrate the scalp where it's most effective to regrow your hair. And you will want to use this once every week to give your scalp time to heal itself. So for me personally, I do it once every Sunday. And a follow-up question to this, which I noticed in my previous videos, is when you should apply minoxidil after derma rolling. Some people say you should wait 12 hours, some people say you should wait 24 hours. Videos that I've watched, people say you can do it straight away. Personally for me, just so I keep maintaining my regimen and treatment schedule, I do it immediately after using my derma roller. So after I use my derma roller, I spray onto my scalp and massage it in. For me, it hasn't caused any problems. And people will say that, but then your minoxidil is giving your body a systemic effect. But if you think about it, some doctors prescribe oral minoxidil for hair loss, and oral minoxidil also gives you a systemic effect. But this you take daily. So if you think about it, spraying minoxidil into your scalp when you made these micro incisions is not gonna affect your body systemically to the extent that daily use of oral minoxidil will. So for me, it's like we're down to the nitty-gritty. If you want to wait, wait. If you don't want to wait and apply right after, do it. It's not medical advice. Try it, see if it works for you. If it doesn't work for you, just leave it for 24 hours and you'll be fine. What is the best way to deal with hair loss? What I'm teaching you here is just prolonging the inevitable. Sooner or later, all of us who suffer from male pattern baldness will lose our hair. So I think the wisest thing to do, even though it's scary right now, is to shave your hair off completely like I did over here and see whether or not you can accept looking like this. Give it a month just to see if you can accept looking like this and if it's the end of the world for you. I know for me, when I stopped taking my medication and tried to accept my balding, I shaved it all off, and in the beginning I was convinced that I could deal with being bald. But turned out I couldn't. So I know that it's not an easy decision to make, but I do think it's important just to visualize and see yourself being bald, because then maybe as time goes on you can accept it because you've already seen yourself being bald and you'll know that it's not the end of the world. So before beginning the regimen that I'm preaching, which is Finasteride, Minoxidil and Derma rolling, please shave it all off. It'll also be much easier if you decide to go on your medication, because then the shedding will not be as bad. Your progress photos will be really good because you have about the same length. But at least you're giving yourself the option to see yourself bald and see if you can accept it. Because if you have long hair and you're really scared of balding and you never at least tried to go bald, maybe you've done yourself a disfavor. Maybe the thought of going bald is much bigger than it has to be. So if you shave it off and you notice that, wow, I actually look pretty good bald, then that's great. Then you don't have to spend money, you don't have to spend time, you don't have to be stressed about your hair loss and how the progress is going, making a decision, and you're moving on with life to things that are actually important. Am I a hypocrite? Yes, I am. And I know I am. But I just want what's best for you, and I know if I just accepted going bald, it would have been the best thing for me. So that's it. 10 things to know before using Finasteride, Minoxidil and Derma rolling for your hair loss. I hope you found this video somewhat useful, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.